The night was silent until Emily's scream cut through the small apartment, sharp and desperate, as if her very soul cracked. She clutched Lily close, trembling, her heart pounding as she whispered, "I won't let him take you." The doorframe shuddered when Daniel stormed out, his face twisted with anger, his hand slamming the door so hard the walls shook. The child buried her face against her mother's chest, too afraid to cry, her small arms holding tight, as if letting go meant the world would collapse. Outside, sirens wailed, distant but menacing, like a warning of chaos yet to come. Emily felt the weight of betrayal pressing down, memories of nights she sacrificed, jobs she broke her back for, and endless loneliness where she tried to keep her little girl safe. Now, the past, the very pain she buried, clawed back alive. Her knees buckled, but she held her daughter tighter, her voice raw as she whispered, "We'll survive this, I swear." Shadows flickered across the room, her life fractured in a single moment, leaving behind a silence more dangerous than the scream itself. The silence after Daniel's exit was unbearable, pressing on Emily's chest like a weight she couldn't shake. The apartment seemed smaller now, walls closing in, shadows stretching longer with each second. Lily whispered, "Mommy, is he gone?" Her little voice cracked, barely audible, yet sharp enough to pierce Emily's heart. Emily smoothed back her daughter's curls and forced a nod, though fear still echoed in her bones. She wanted to collapse, to scream, to let every wound spill out, but instead she whispered, "He can't hurt us now." The lie burned, because she knew his threats would not end here. Sirens faded outside, but inside, the stillness felt like a warning. Emily's mind raced, custody battles, late bills, endless work shifts. Her past was clawing back, threatening to shatter the fragile world she built. She kissed her daughter's forehead, whispering a vow she wasn't sure she could keep. "I'll protect you no matter what it costs me." Emily sat on the floor, her back against the cold wall, still holding Lily. Her breath came shallow, every exhale catching in her throat as her mind replayed Daniel's rage. She remembered when his smile once promised safety, now twisted into a weapon. "Why does Daddy hate us?" Lily whispered, her tiny hand resting on Emily's arm. The question shattered her heart into fragments she couldn't mend. Emily kissed the crown of her daughter's head, whispering, "He doesn't hate you, baby, he's just lost." The words were for Lily, but Emily wasn't sure she believed them. Fear turned to determination as she stared across the room, realizing the fight wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about reclaiming their future. She inhaled deeply, her chest heavy but steady, and whispered again, this time for herself, "We will not break." The clock ticked loudly, its hands mocking Emily with each second. The room carried the faint smell of burnt coffee from earlier, untouched on the table. Her exhaustion weighed heavy, but Lily's safety anchored her focus. She whispered, "Sleep now, baby. I'll watch over you." The little girl curled into her mother's arms, eyes fluttering shut despite the tremors in her body. Emily's gaze wandered toward the window where faint city lights glowed under drizzle. The world kept moving, indifferent to her pain, but inside, time felt frozen. She thought of bills stacked on the counter, of papers she couldn't ignore, of the custody threats Daniel screamed about. Her throat tightened, but her hands never trembled on her daughter. She whispered to the silence, "He won't win. I won't let him." For the first time tonight, her fear turned into fragile resolve. The night dragged on, each hour longer than the last. Emily placed Lily gently in bed, brushing hair from her forehead with trembling hands. She stood in the doorway, watching her child breathe steadily, fragile innocence safe for now. Her chest ached with love and fear, the dual forces that kept her alive. Memories swirled of endless sacrifices. Jobs worked until dawn, nights spent alone to ensure Lily had what she needed. Daniel's shadow loomed, but Emily's vow echoed louder. She will not suffer because of him. The quiet was almost unbearable, yet within it she found strength rising, a fire refusing to burn out. Turning back toward the kitchen, she stared at unpaid bills stacked high, the evidence of her endless struggle. She whispered, one last time before dawn, "For her, I'll fight until I have nothing left. Dawn seeped through thin curtains, and Emily woke to the ache the slammed door left behind. Lily stirred and murmured, a soft worry that made the room feel smaller. Emily packed a lunch with hands that would not steady, pretending the tremor was just cold. Her phone lit with unknown numbers, and Daniel's last text waited like bait. She whispered, "Today we move forward," and set the mug down before it rattled. The hallway smelled of rain and old paint when she walked Lily to the bus stop. Maya called, breath quick, promising to cover a late shift if Emily needed it. Relief flickered, then dimmed, because favors now felt like debts with hidden strings. Lily waved brave and small, and Emily matched it with a careful smile. The bus pulled away, and somewhere a clock began counting between fear and resolve. The diner's neon hummed over the smell of coffee and fry oil, and Emily tied her apron tight. Mr. Keller raised an updated schedule, the word glinting like a verdict. He said, "You missed last night," and she swallowed because last night was survival. She showed the old roster on her phone, but his copy bore a 2 a.m. stamp. Someone had moved her shift after midnight, and now absence clung to her name. The ticket bell rang, and she carried plates like fragile plans. A regular mentioned Daniel had been asking questions, smiling like a neighbor. The world tilted, and she gripped the counter to steady the past. Mr. Keller sighed and said, "Keep your head down today, I will review it." She nodded, knowing storms find you even under fluorescent light. They met behind the diner where steam curled from vents like ghosts from old mistakes. Maya paced and said, "He called me last week about you," words stumbling over guilt. Emily folded her arms tight, bracing against a truth she already feared. "I told him your schedule once," Maya admitted. "I thought it might calm him." Air thinned, because safety can vanish inside a single careless kindness. Emily asked, "Did you take anything from him?" And silence confessed before the nod. Maya whispered the rent money came in an envelope no one should touch. Betrayal tasted metallic, and Emily forced it down to keep standing. "No more," she said, "because anger must burn steady when a child is watching." Maya cried, "I will fix this, but bridges rebuild slower than trust breaks." The call arrived between orders, a bright hold tune masking the blade inside the words. A calm voice said she was Ava Hart from Family Services and needed a visit. "We received a concern about safety," the voice added, careful and precise. Emily kept her tone level, promising a tidy home and a quiet evening. Tomorrow at 6, the appointment set like a pin on a map of nerves. She built a list in her head, chores and documents stacked in defensive lines. Daniel's shadow stretched long enough to cover paperwork and windows. She texted Maya one rule, no more contact, then erased the thread clean. The clatter returned, but her heartbeat refused their rhythm. Tonight would be triage, and every detail might decide a future. After closing, Emily carried home leftovers and a pocket full of dread dressed as plans. She scrubbed the counters until the laminate shone, as if brightness could hold the line. Lily hummed at the table, coloring skies without thunder while thunder rolled. Emily sorted papers into neat stacks, birth certificate, school forms, medical notes. She circled legal aid numbers with ink pressed hard enough to dent pages. Locks clicked twice, then a third time, and the spare key found a new tile. "Will the lady be nice?" Lily asked, and Emily said, "She will see us." Order breathed through the rooms like a small brave choir. She studied restraining order steps on her phone, memorizing the path forward. "Tomorrow I fight out loud," she whispered, letting the night carry it. The waiting room smelled of paper and old coffee, and Emily kept her grip firm on Lily's hand. A poster about family rights peeled at the edges on the wall. Her heart pounded as she heard Daniel laugh in the hallway, low and cruel. Lily whispered, "I'm scared," and Emily pressed a kiss on her hair. She told her, "You're safe with me, always." The lawyer finally called her name, and every eye turned as if they could see through her. Daniel's cologne drifted ahead of him, a reminder of nights when promises were poison. The air buzzed with tension, and the sound of shuffling papers felt louder than thunder. Emily lifted her chin, refusing to let her knees buckle. She whispered to herself, "I will not falter." It was only the beginning, but she knew battles do not wait. They crashed down, demanding every ounce of strength at once. Inside the small office, Emily sat across from Mr. Turner, the lawyer assigned to her case. His glasses reflected the lamp glow as he flipped through papers. He said, "Daniel is asking for joint custody, but his record shows incidents we can use." Emily's stomach twisted because truth did not always win in rooms like this. She asked, "Do they ever care about what he's done?" Turner replied, "We need proof, documentation, witnesses." She nodded, recalling every sleepless night, every bruised memory that had no photograph. Lily doodled quietly in the corner, unaware her world was being debated like property. Turner leaned in and said, "You'll need strength, even when it feels impossible." Emily swallowed hard, because impossible had been her life for years. She signed her name on the first page, ink pressing deep into the paper like a scar. The courtroom echoed with polished shoes and whispered gossip. Emily stepped inside, her chest tight, every nerve braced for war. Daniel leaned against his lawyer, smirking as if the outcome was already written. The judge entered, and silence fell heavy. Emily's hands shook, but she held Lily's photograph in her pocket like armor. When the bailiff called her name, her voice cracked but steadied as she answered, "I." Daniel's lawyer painted him as a father, wanting what's best. Each word twisted the truth into a polished lie. Emily whispered, "He doesn't care," under her breath, her jaw clenched tight. When her turn came, she raised her chin, voice sharp with years of swallowed pain. "I have been her world," she declared, "and I will fight to keep her safe." During recess, Emily leaned against the cold marble wall, her body trembling. Maya appeared, breathless, eyes downcast. She whispered, "I'll testify if I have to," words raw with guilt. Emily's chest tightened, betrayal and loyalty wrestled inside her. She asked, "Why now?" Maya whispered, "Because he's worse than I realized, and I was blind." Emily's voice cracked, "You gave him access." Maya nodded, shame etched deep. But in that moment, Emily saw the power of truth, even broken. "Then speak it," she demanded, because silence had been her prison for too long. Lily ran up, clutching Emily's hand, grounding her back to purpose. The world still spun, but she would not let it throw her off balance. She whispered to herself, "One step at a time." Back in the courtroom, the air thickened as testimony resumed. Maya's voice trembled, but held steady as she admitted to taking Daniel's money. Gasps rose, and Daniel's smirk faltered for the first time. His lawyer objected, but the judge raised a hand. Emily closed her eyes briefly, strength gathering in silence. Turner leaned in and whispered, "This changes everything." Daniel shifted in his seat, jaw tight, eyes flashing. Emily felt the weight of years pressing down, but also lifting piece by piece. Lily's small face in her memory gave her courage sharper than fear. She whispered, "This is the truth," her voice steady now, as if her daughter's heartbeat spoke through her. In that instant, the battle tilted, not finished, but no longer hopeless. Night closed in heavy rain, streaking across the apartment windows, as Emily sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by unpaid bills and court notices. The shadows pressed in closer, reminding her of every sacrifice that had never been enough. Lily asked softly, "Why are you sad?" her eyes wide and searching. Emily forced a smile, "Because life is heavy, but you are my light." She tucked the child into bed with steady hands that shook once the door closed. Alone, she reread Daniel's legal threats, his words laced with venom, promising to expose her mistakes. Her breath grew shallow, guilt flooding from years of choices she tried to bury. The past was no longer silent, it screamed through every letter. She whispered to herself, "I will not crumble," though her chest ached with doubt. At work the next day, the diner buzzed with noise. but Emily felt alone among clattering plates. A co-worker whispered that Daniel had been spotted nearby, his car parked across the street. Fear cut through her, sharp and merciless. She steadied her hands, serving coffee with a forced calm that betrayed the storm inside. Mr. Keller pulled her aside, muttering that customers were gossiping. Shame flushed her cheeks, but anger rose louder. She said quietly, "I won't let him ruin this for me." Still, every face in the diner felt like a judge, every whisper another blow. She carried plates heavier than iron, knowing Daniel's shadow had followed her even here. That evening, Emily opened a mailbox and found an envelope without a return address. Inside, photographs spilled across the table. Her at work, Lily at school, their apartment door. Her stomach dropped, fear hollowing her chest. Lily asked, "Who sent those?" her small voice trembling. Emily lied, "Just papers for Mommy's work," and hid the photos under old receipts. But her hands shook so hard that one photo slipped to the floor. She picked it up quickly, whispering, "He's trying to break me." In that moment, the apartment felt like a cage, its walls thinner than ever. She locked the doors again, heart racing, shadows stretching darker. Later that week, Emily sat across from Turner in his office, her voice raw as she showed him the photos. "This is intimidation," she said, her eyes fierce, though her hands trembled. Turner frowned, rubbing his temples. "We'll request additional protection, but without proof of him delivering them, it's difficult." Emily's chest tightened, fury battling helplessness. "So he wins if he scares us enough," she snapped, eyes burning. Turner leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You must stay strong, especially for Lily." She nodded, swallowing rage, her voice breaking. "I can't lose her." The office air felt suffocating, files stacked like towers of judgment around them. Back home, Emily sat in the dark, only the sound of rain tapping against the window. Lily slept peacefully in the next room, her soft breath steady. Emily held the photo of Lily walking to school, rage and fear twisting in her chest. "He will not steal her childhood," she whispered to herself. She lit a small candle on the kitchen table, its glow trembling across her face. In its light, she saw not weakness but fire, scars shaped into strength. She pressed her palm against the table, breathing deep. The storm outside howled, but she whispered into it, "Tomorrow I fight harder." The vow settled into her bones, heavier than fear, sharper than sorrow. The knock at the door startled Emily more than the storm outside. She opened it to see a face she hadn't expected in years. Her older brother Michael, eyes shadowed by regret. His voice was low. "I heard about Daniel. I couldn't stay away." Emily's chest tightened with anger and disbelief. "You left when I needed you most," she snapped, memories of abandonment clawing back. Michael lowered his gaze, his hands trembling. "I was weak. But I'm here now." Lily peeked from behind Emily, whispering, "Who is he, Mommy?" Emily steadied herself, replying softly, "He is family." Trust wavered in her chest like a flickering flame. She wanted to slam the door shut, but something in his tired eyes held her still. The storm rumbled outside, and with it came a choice: to let him in, or let the past dictate her future. They sat at the kitchen table, the candle from the night before still half burnt. Michael's voice cracked as he explained, "I've been watching from a distance. I know Daniel is dangerous." Emily clenched her fists, rage flaring. "You knew and did nothing," she spat. He admitted, "I was ashamed. I thought you'd never forgive me." Silence stretched, broken only by rain dripping outside. Lily colored quietly at the table, glancing up at the tense exchange. Emily's chest tightened, caught between fury and the longing to believe him. Michael pulled a folder from his jacket, papers marked with dates and records. "Proof," he said. "I've kept track. You'll need this." Her breath caught, anger, hope, and suspicion colliding in her chest. She whispered, "Why now?" And he answered, "Because this time I will not run." Later, Michael spoke of secrets long buried. He admitted he once borrowed money from Daniel years ago, a debt that tied him in silence. Emily's stomach twisted as he confessed, "I thought I was protecting you by staying away." She rose from her chair, anger spilling through her voice. "Protecting me by abandoning me," she shouted, her chest heaving. Michael lowered his head, shame thick in his silence. Lily reached out timidly, touching Emily's sleeve, her small voice whispering, "Please don't fight." Emily sank back down, her breath ragged. Michael whispered, "I want to make things right." Tears stung her eyes, torn between betrayal and the chance for healing. She whispered back, "You can't undo the years, but you can help me now." Emily paced the room, her mind racing with what Michael had revealed. "If you're serious, then stand with me in court," she demanded. Michael nodded, determination hardening in his tired eyes. "I will," he said. "I owe you that." For the first time, Emily saw not the brother who left but the man willing to face his past. She breathed deeply, still unsure if trust could grow again, but hope glimmered faintly. Lily curled up on the couch, her head resting on her bunny, whispering sleepily, "We're stronger now." Emily smiled faintly at her daughter's words, her heart aching but steadying. The storm outside calmed, rain softening into a drizzle. Emily whispered, "Then tomorrow we fight together." It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a step toward reclaiming strength. That night, Emily sat by Lily's bedside while Michael waited in the living room. She brushed her daughter's hair back, whispering, "We'll be okay." Lily's small smile flickered before she drifted into dreams. Emily closed the door softly, leaning against it, with a breath that carried both fear and relief. She stepped into the living room where Michael sat quietly, his hands folded, eyes tired. "Tomorrow we face him," Emily said, her voice steady but fragile. Michael nodded. "You won't be alone." Emily's eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. She looked at her brother and saw a man scarred but willing. She whispered to herself, "For her, I will risk everything." The apartment felt different now, not free, not safe, but no longer lonely. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Emily walked through the doors, Michael beside her, steady but silent. Turner met them in the hallway, his briefcase heavy with evidence. He whispered, "This is our strongest chance." Emily's breath trembled, but her chin lifted. Daniel appeared, smirking as though victory was already his. His lawyer spoke loudly to reporters, painting him as a devoted father. Emily gripped Michael's hand once, grounding herself. Inside, the air was thick with judgment, every eye waiting for her to falter. Lily's photograph pressed against her chest pocket like armor. She thought of every sleepless night, every tear that never fell where anyone could see. She whispered to herself, "I've carried too much to fall now." As the bailiff called the room to order, she stepped forward into the storm. The judge entered, robes sweeping silence into the room. Emily's heart pounded as she sat, Turner beside her, notes spread across the desk. Daniel leaned back smugly, arms folded, whispering to his lawyer. The proceedings began, voices echoing like hammers on stone. Daniel's attorney painted Emily as unstable, burdened, unfit. Each lie struck like a blade, but she refused to bow her head. Turner countered with documents, witness lists, and proof of Daniel's neglect. Emily's hands shook, but she met the judge's eyes, her voice steady when asked. "I have given my child everything," she declared, "while he has given nothing but fear." Daniel's jaw tightened, a crack in his perfect mask. The courtroom leaned forward, sensing a shift. Maya stepped nervously onto the witness stand, her voice trembling as she admitted taking money from Daniel. The courtroom rippled with shock, Daniel's smirk fading. "He wanted me to keep Emily distracted, to keep her weak," Maya confessed, tears streaking her face. Emily's chest ached at the betrayal, but also at the courage it took to admit it here. Turner asked her to describe the threats, and Maya's voice broke as she said, "He promised to ruin her." Daniel's lawyer objected, but the judge silenced him with a sharp gesture. Emily's gaze softened toward Maya, seeing not only the wound but the attempt at redemption. For the first time, Daniel shifted in his chair, unease visible in his clenched jaw. Emily whispered under her breath, "Truth finally speaks." The climax came when Emily herself took the stand. The courtroom held its breath as she recounted years of sacrifice and silent battles. "I worked double shifts so my daughter never went hungry," she said, her voice breaking. "I endured threats and fear so she could sleep in peace." Daniel's lawyer tried to rattle her, demanding proof, waving documents dismissively. But Emily met his stare, her voice firm. "The proof is my daughter. Her laughter, her safety, her growth, that is what I built." Michael sat at the edge of the room, his eyes wet with pride. The judge leaned forward, studying her closely, the weight of truth heavy in the air. Emily's chest burned, but for once it was not from fear. It was from fire. The courtroom erupted in heated exchanges, objections flying as the truth bore down. Turner closed with steady conviction, presenting the final evidence, a record of Daniel's threats. Emily clasped her hands together, whispering a silent prayer. Daniel erupted, slamming his fist on the table, his mask fully broken. Gasps filled the room as the judge's gavel struck, demanding order. In that moment, Emily knew the tide had shifted. Her fear had transformed into strength, her silence into voice. The judge announced a recess before final decision, but Emily felt victory pulsing in her chest. Michael placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "You've already won." She closed her eyes, whispering back, "For Lily." And for the first time in years, she believed it. The courtroom was hushed as the judge delivered the final words. Emily held her breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. But the words, "full custody granted," rang louder than any gavel strike. Relief poured through her like a flood, leaving her shaking with release. Daniel slumped back, rage flashing across his face, but his voice no longer mattered here. Michael squeezed her shoulder, whispering, "You did it." Emily's eyes filled with tears, her chest heavy with victory and scars alike. She whispered, "We are free," though her heart knew freedom carried its own weight. Turner nodded, pride softening his usually stern expression. Emily inhaled, steadying herself, her voice silent but fierce inside. This was not just survival, it was triumph. That evening, the apartment was quiet but no longer haunted. Emily placed Lily's favorite toy on the shelf and watched her daughter twirl in her pajamas. "Does this mean he can't take me?" Lily asked softly, eyes wide with hope. Emily knelt, pulling her close. "It means you are safe with me, always." Tears burned her eyes, but her smile was real, not a mask. The clutter of bills remained, but for once they did not suffocate her. She whispered, "We can finally breathe," as Lily giggled, spinning until she collapsed into her arms. For the first time in years, laughter filled the walls instead of fear. Later, Emily sat with Michael at the kitchen table. The candle between them flickered as he spoke. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I'll be here if you let me." Emily studied him, seeing the same boy who once abandoned her, but also the man who had chosen to return. She exhaled slowly, her anger softened by exhaustion and the fragile hope of family. "I can't erase the past," she said, "but maybe we can start from here." Michael nodded, relief loosening his shoulders. In silence they shared coffee, not as strangers, but as siblings rediscovering the threads of blood and trust. The storm had passed, but rebuilding was its own battle. The next morning, sunlight poured into the apartment, brighter than it had felt in years. Emily stood at the window, Lily's laughter echoing from her room. The city outside still carried chaos, but inside, there was peace. Michael left early, promising to return soon. Emily brewed coffee slowly, savoring the moment. She whispered to herself, "This is ours now," the words grounding her like roots. Lily bounded in, messy curls flying, climbing into her lap. Emily kissed her forehead, whispering, "We're stronger now." The quiet strength inside her no longer felt fragile. It felt permanent, carved into her soul by fire and survival. That night, Emily stood outside Lily's room, her hand resting gently on the doorframe. The quiet hum of her child's breathing filled the air, a lullaby sweeter than any song. She looked out the window at the city lights, no longer symbols of loneliness, but of possibility. Sitting on the edge of Lily's bed, she smiled. A real, unguarded smile. She whispered, "We made it, baby, and we'll never stop fighting." The words were not a vow of war, but of resilience. Emily felt lighter, not because the past was gone, but because she was no longer bound by it. She had scars, yes, but also freedom. And in that small apartment, surrounded by silence and love, she found the beginning of a new life.